Marcionism versus Gnosticism. Um, Marcion gets called a Gnostic because this is what's kind of strange about people nowadays calling themselves Gnostics. Gnostic, Jim Zippinder's box correctly, what he would say Gnostic meant know-it-all. Yeah, Gnostic was a slander, a pejorative thing. Uh, that's why, oh, the Gnostics were the ones who knew. The Gnostics didn't call themselves Gnostics. You know what they called themselves? Christians. And we talk about sects of Gnosticism, but there actually were, within the church, there were Gnostic writings. Most view this as it's not like there was these were people who would identify as Christians. These sects that would isolate themselves off are the ones that are most what we would consider Gnostic, viewing the physical world as evil, created by a stupid God. Again, they would be very ascetic. Sex, childbirth, marriage, these would be wrong. You'd be entombing souls in physical bodies by procreating, and you would want to become androgynous, transgendered eunuchs that kind of like Heaven's Gate. We know that very early on in the Catholic Church, not Roman Catholic, but the Catholic Church, which it was the 99% of the church, they quickly condemned castration, because again that would be a mark of Gnosticism. Also, Gnostic versus Catholic. I'll get into the Marcion bit. Marcionism had the Docetism, but it didn't have secret knowledge. Again, anybody could have been a Marcionite. Whereas, just like anybody could have been a Catholic Christian. Man, woman, young, old, rich, poor, Greek, barbarian, Jew, Gentile, anyone. Whereas the Gnostics were elitists and eventually separatists. Again, this secret knowledge that you wouldn't unleash to other people. And you see Gnosticism naturally occurring in the Latin West. I mean, the cloud of unknowing has kind of a Gnostic feel to it because it says, don't let the masses find out about this. Don't let the regular people find out about this. It's a retention of knowledge against other people. And there is this kind of in Mark, there's this kind of secrecy, right? Until a certain event happens, and then I'll just make clear this idea of the messianic secret was then, but we still want there to be secrets, and we know we have a lock on salvation, and they don't. Whereas Catholic Christianity, what is it? You get baptized and you believe in Christ, right? There were bishops, but nothing like the hierarchy that would later develop. Gnosticism, and this is one argument that Gnosticism infected the church, was very hierarchical. It wasn't people just sitting around in a circle, and it wasn't to do with paganism either. It was docetic, absolutely, which is, you hear somebody say they're Gnostic, it's like, well, and then they want to talk about like, oh, well, celibacy of priests is wrong. Well, if you're a Gnostic, why aren't you celibate? Now, the early church fathers would bash the Gnostics, and sometimes they would, say they ate menstrual fluid and semen, and they had orgies and got drunk. And I think most people consider that slander, but there are some people who actually think, you know what, I hate the church fathers, and they're all liars and propagandists. But what they say about the Gnostics is true, and this is what the Gnostics are like. If you actually read their writings, no, they're celibate, ascetic, androgynous. This is what they aimed for. Again, this is why monasticism was looked down upon. It took till over 300 years for the Catholic Church to actually say, okay, fine, but it has to be monitored by bishops. And what's officiated by married priests with children, in the early days. Now, because the idea of a bunch of celibate men running something, that was too Gnostic. But the Gnostics had the secret teaching. Marcion gets called a Gnostic, but he doesn't have any secret hidden teachings. He cut up the Gospel of Luke himself and the epistles of Paul. And if you look, he comes from that area of Galatia, and he probably only had read Galatians, and then when he reads the Old Testament, he freaked out. There's the early Christian writings website groups Marcion in with the Gnostics. He gets certainly called the Gnostic by the Church Fathers, as I said, but nowadays Gnostic usually, that umbrella term refers to the Basilidians, the Valentinians, the Ophites, the Sethians, and again, these people, what would they refer to themselves as? They would refer to themselves as Christians. They thought they were the true Christians. But as Catholic meant universal, and that the apostles, it was universal for everybody, and that the apostles taught the same message. The Gnostics believed one or two, apostles had the hidden teaching, and Christ shielded the truth from the other apostles. That's why the secret James, secret Mark, or not secret Mark, secret Mark's a forgery, secret John. I guess secret James and secret John are forgeries, but they're obvious. I mean, yes, he told all the other apostles this, but this is what he told me in secret, that nobody knows about, and not, any of the people that John knew or James knew. And it's funny to have James be a Gnostic because he was the most Judaized of the group. But then again, these were second century Pauline people who didn't like the pastorals and didn't like, these women and children and married couples. What do you mean you can have sex and be saved? That's why I'm suspect of some of the monastic stuff, is because there are monks that think if you have sex, you can't get into heaven. I mean, they're crazy, and it's not a belief of any established church, but the monastic communities can get pretty wacky if not overseen correctly. Peace to you.